lie.
What's up, lifers? Welcome back to 30 to Life. So a few of you have been asking me to do a follow-up on what happened after that female correctional officer got attacked during shower time. So if you ain't checked it out, I'm gonna put it right here. You gotta go check it out before you watch this so you know what I'm talking about. But basically what happened afterwards, they covered all the windows on the cells so we all couldn't see. And so the next thing, you know, we could just basically hear everything that's going on. So the next thing that was happening, I could hear cell doors being popped, and you can hear people being whooped on, like, you know what I mean? You can hear noises, like scuffle noises, and you can hear people, like, you know, saying like, you know. So basically what was happening is officers were going in the cells and whooping on people. And I'm pretty sure it was the black inmates that they were whooping on, and people who were yelling out their doors at the time when the lady was laying on the floor. So, you know, these COs, they were watching everybody on their doors. They were seeing if you were yelling or banging on your doors, and they were marking cell numbers. So that's basically how they do it. And so the repercussions is, you know, you're going to get your ass whooped. And so that's what they were doing. They're going in there whooping on inmates who were talking shit, or they were targeting black inmates. So that happened that night. It was scary because, you know, you're just in there, you can't see anything. You're sitting in your cell. Me and my cellie, we were just thinking like, man, you know, they're going to come in here, because we didn't know who they were targeting at first. So we just felt like that they're just going to hit everybody, you know what I mean? But we kept waiting for that door to slide open and the officers to come in and just, you know what I mean? And I remember just me and my cellie, we were just like, man, fuck it. We just going to get off, you know what I mean? We're just going to do what we got to do, because they coming in. They don't care. At that time, when correctional officers, they come up in your cell, it's green light when they just come up in your cell like that. They want to get in with you. They not tripping. They're not tripping. They're coming in with their homies. They want to fight you. So that's your time to get your motherfucking money in if you want to, you know. But anyways, so we was waiting up all night, could barely sleep, thinking that they were going to come in our cell, but it never happened. After that, the next day, they came through, like we could hear all the officers coming in, the keys and everything, and we could hear them popping cells. So we didn't know what was happening. Again, we were sitting there ready, waiting, see what was going to happen, but they were just popping cells. You couldn't hear nobody fighting or anything like that. But then they finally came to our cell, took the window covering down. They told one of us to sit on the stool at the desk and cross your legs and basically, you know what I mean, put your hands behind your back and sit there, you know, on the desk. And so one of us had to do that while the other one backed up to the door and got cuffed up through the tray slot. And then after that, they send my cellie over, like say like I was sitting on the desk. So he got to come over there and switch spots with me. I got to back up to the door and cuff up through the tray slot. And then after that, they cracked the door to pull us out. But the way they did it is they had put like this 2x4. I got to see when we came out of the cell. They put this 2x4 in the door track. So when they popped the cell, the door would only slide open, you know, so far to where you could just barely fit your body through. And so what they would do is they'd have you back up to that small open space in the door, and then they would grab you by the cuffs, and then they like squeeze you out the door, put you against the wall. So they put me against the wall, and then they pulled out my cellie, did the same thing, put him against the wall, and there's like hella officers standing around everywhere. And the first thing this officer says to me in my ear is, "Do you run with blacks?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm an Islander, I'm Samoan, I run with the others." And he said, "All right, these guys are others." Like they started passing it down the line and telling the other officers. So we really don't know what's going on at this time. So they start escorting us, right? And they escorting me and my cellie. We're in our boxers and we're handcuffed, and we come out the building. And when we come out the building, it's a trip. You know, you never see this many officers in one spot ever. And they had a whole line of correction officers from the building all the way across the field to the chow hall. And they were all standing pretty much like next to each other, like almost shoulder to shoulder. And they're standing there and they got their nightsticks out. They got the shields on. They got the riot gear on, the face mask. Every single correction officer has their face covered except for sergeants. They got their face covered and everything. They got the towers watching. And so they walk us to the chow hall. They get us all in the chow hall, and they make us put our heads down on the table, put our heads face down on the table, and we sat there on these metal stools with our face down on the tables for hours. I'm talking about hours. They pulled us out like sometime, early, not early morning, but close to noon, probably around 10 or 11. And we were in there until it was nighttime, past chow time, all that shit. So, but by the time we got back to our cells, they had stripped everybody's cells, took everybody's property, took toothbrushes, toothpaste, took our shoes, took clothes, took magazines, books, everything. They took everything. And I remember there was just like one state boot in my cells. Like, what were we gonna do with that, But so they did that, and now we're sitting in our cells with nothing. So the next day they start interviews, and they started interviewing inmates, and they start on one side, and they basically go cell to cell, and this process took weeks, I think, for them to get through everybody. But when they got to us for the interview, they pulled me and my cellie out. Again, we have our windows still covered. They pulled me and my cellie out kind of in the same manner. And they take us, and they take me into one office, and they take my cellie into another office. So when I go in this office, I sit down, I'm cuffed up, and there's this big, huge sergeant sitting at the desk. And he's got two officers standing behind him, and I got an officer standing behind me. And so I'm sitting there at this desk, and he's got my fucking file in front of him opened up. And he's like, so he asked me the same fucking question that officer asked me the day they were pulling us out of our cells. He asked me, do you run with blacks? And I said, nah, man, I'm an islander. I'm Samoan. I run other. He said, okay, well, we got a problem with the blacks. That's who we got a problem with. And he kind of like looked at him and his officers. That's what he said, and that's what he stated. So I didn't say nothing. I just sat there, and he was going through my file, and he was like, oh, so, you're serving life in prison and all this stuff. And he says, well, we got to let you know, we're letting everybody know that, the warden is willing to give anybody who has information on what happened time cuts on their time. And I was just like, wow, like, I'm good. I didn't say I'm good. I just basically said, well, I didn't see anything. And then he said, well, you sure you didn't see anything? Because where your cell is located, you have basically, the perfect view, and you should be able to see exactly what's happening where this incident took place. And I said, yeah, well, I just didn't see anything. I was sleeping at the time when it all happened. And he knew I was fucking lying, because he knows damn well we don't sleep. He knows what the fuck is up. And then he just said, okay, all right, man. And that was it. He was like, basically, we're done with you. And, that was pretty much it. But anyways, yeah, this is what happens afterwards with the whole fucking thing. You attack one of their officers, they're going to retaliate on you and your whole race. And if a lot of you guys don't know this, man, High Desert was under investigations for racism. They were investigated for, beating up inmates, mistreating inmates, things like that. They even had the feds have to come investigate High Desert. That's how bad this place was. Like, they were killing inmates on the yard, shooting them. It was just bad. It was pretty bad in High Desert. So, it's not uncommon for these officers to say straight up that they have a problem with a particular race. They were really racist. I experienced racism there myself, and it's just really bad. But anyways, so they kept us locked down for a whole fucking year, and and we didn't get no yard or anything like that. So we didn't see daylight for a whole fucking year, and the officers were the ones that had to feed us in our cells. So they were making the food and bringing the food to us. So whenever we got the food, it was either the food was cold and the milk was hot. And, at times, I remember one time I found a spider under the lettuce, under the salad that was on my tray. We would find bugs in our tray. I'm sure they did more than just put bugs in our tray. I'm sure they, really fucked the food up. But after so long of giving my cellie most of my tray, you know, I was scarfing that shit down after a few weeks or so. And you just do what you got to do to survive. You know, you're gonna eat the food, whatever they give you, and it doesn't matter if they spit in it, threw it on the floor, played football with your food, whatever. I don't know, but you just try not to think about it when you eat it, because you know you got to eat. You're starving. And so that was pretty much a rough year of being locked down. After a while, they stopped, you know, talking to us and harassing us. So, you know, it's just kind of a lockdown. That's it. But the rumor was, for those guys that did this to this female CO, I don't know if it's true or not, but you know, somebody that was coming in off the bus, they had came into R&R or whatever. When these guys were getting transferred out, the two that did this, they said those dudes look like Elephant Man, you know what I mean? Like their heads were like lopsided and everything. Like these officers put a royal beating on them. So yeah, prison's a cold place, man, full of racism, full of gangs, full of broken souls, full of violence. It's just a fucked up place, y'all. So that's why I tell you guys these stories. My experiences with prison just wasn't cool. It was just, you know, a nightmare that I revisit in my dreams sometimes out here on the streets. So anyways, man, you know what it is. Stay the fuck out of trouble.